The Seerah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, part 30. Now the whole incident of the Ashab Fil, I think we take it for granted because we've been hearing about it ever since we were small. We've heard the story many times. But if you think about it, if you sit back and just ponder upon that whole incident, that here was a massive army of a king coming with the elephants to crush the Kaaba. The Makkah people had no form of defense. They didn't have an army. There was nothing they could do. And then how Allah Ta'ala protected the Kaaba. That is Allah. That is the qudrat of Allah. And that is Allah showing that if anyone messes with my deen, it doesn't matter who they are, even if they're Christians or Muslims or Jews, whoever they are, Allah Ta'ala will destroy them. So this story, we should really think about this. This is a big deal. This shows the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And likewise, the Arabs of that time, all of Arabia felt that this was really a big deal. And so they would always remember the incident of the elephants. And they would use it as a source of reference. So they'd say, for example, I was born in the year of the elephants, or such and such a thing happened in the year of the elephants. And just to finish off the story, I'll mention that Hazrat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha said that I saw one of the guides of Abraha in my childhood. Now, when Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha was a young girl, it had been many years since the whole of the incident. But I mentioned before that many of Abraha's soldiers were killed there and then. Some died later on, but there were a few that were spared. And so this one man, who must have been a young man at the time of the incident, he was a guide of Abraha, or he was part of the army. And Hazrat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala says that I saw him. He was an old man by that time. He was blind and he was begging for food from the people. So Aisha radiallahu ta'ala remember seeing that and people telling her that this person, he's cursed by Allah till the end of his days, because look, he's blind and he's begging for food. So that is all the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And 50 or 55 days after the whole incident, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born. And it is said that when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born, there were still traces of the feces and the carcasses of the elephants outside of Makkah. And people used to take their children to outside Makkah to show them the anger of Allah. And they used to teach their children, they said, listen, don't mess with Allah, don't mess with the house of Allah. Look, this is what happens. It's like in this day and age, we also use examples like that. For example, a few years ago, there was I don't know how true this is. Some incidents like this are true and some are just made up. On the internet, you find a lot of stories like this, and most of them are made up. But every now and then, Allah Ta'ala shows His qudrat. This incident I'm referring to is, a few years ago, there was this clip of a girl who was told to pray the Quran by her mum, and she didn't, and she kicked the Quran or something like that, and Allah Ta'ala turned her into a fish. And there was a video going around and all this sort of stuff. I don't know how true that is, but these kind of things do happen. And people, even now, they use this to show their children. They say, listen, respect the Quran, don't do this, don't do that, because look, this is what can happen. So I'm not saying all those incidents that you see on YouTube or whatever, though they are all true, and I'm not saying they're all false as well, but every now and then Allah Ta'ala does show His qudrat. So Allah Ta'ala save us from angering Him and save us from disrespecting any component of our deen. Ameen.